All right, everyone, welcome back to the Nexus Point. This is our podcast where people and ideas come together to talk about things, energy, and all kinds of stuff. Now, today we're here upstairs in the Lightning Energy showroom, and I've got a special guest here, Imanuel Rocca from Amber Electric. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's good to be here. Good to be back at work, back getting everything running again. So here we are. Now, you, as I mentioned, come from Amber Electric. Now, we get a lot of our customers ask about Amber Electric, and we refer a lot of people there. Tell me, how does Amber Electric differ from other energy retailers in the market?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, because when you think about the way energy retailers operate, you have the big names like Origin, you have AGL, Energy Australia. There is a bit of a oligopoly happening in Australia, where you have 3-4 companies holding about 60 to 70% of the market share in terms of at least the residential space. Amber came into the play 5 years ago-ish with a pretty bold mission. And the idea was, well, how can we empower the customer to get a better result by being connected to the wholesale energy, directly connected to the wholesale energy market? So when you look at the model of energy retailer, what's happening is that traditionally what you see is a customer goes out for they need an energy connection. They find an energy retailer. They kind of understand, okay, which one has the best rates for me? Which one has the best feed-in tariff? Which one has the best peak time tariff? Which one offers me the best deal? And it's a value proposition that is purely based on how much money can I save by being with this company, right? And what happens is that an energy retailer usually buys energy. They package that energy in certain different ways, and then they sell it to the customer, okay? And you, me, and everyone really, at least in the NEM, which is the National Energy Market in Australia, we're all buying pretty much the same energy. Whether you are with the one company or another one, when you're switching on the light, you're buying the same energy. However, you might be paying a very different price than your neighbor. Why is that? Because you are getting your energy from a different company. So the main difference is in the billing. And what Amber has changed, Amber has revolutionized the way the billing is working by providing people access with the actual wholesale market. So you get connected to this live pricing that changes, and you don't have to be charged on a fixed rate, which is decided by someone at the top, essentially.
So basically what you're saying is there's energy on the wholesale market, and energy retailers purchase that energy in bulk, kilowatt hours, megawatt hours, terawatt hours, and then they sell it to the consumers, and they make money through arbitrage because they bought it cheaper than they sold it generally. I imagine how business works, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so can you explain to our listeners then how the wholesale energy market works?
Yeah, it's all based on supply and demand. Now, if you think about energy market, one analogy I like to make is this stock market. There is supply and demand. People want to buy a certain stock, and if more people want to buy the stock than the people that are looking to sell it, the price of that specific company will go up. And the same thing in energy. You have the energy grid is a very complicated and very fragile network. And you need to keep always a certain level of frequency into the network, which is the perfect balance between supply and demand. Now, on the supply side, you have big generators like big coal stations, gas power station, or you have what is becoming more and more important and more relevant into the market. You have household solar production. All of these generators are producing a lot of energy, and they're selling it to the grid. They're sending it to the grid. If that energy is not consumed, it's a problem. What do we do with that energy? So the way the wholesale energy market works essentially is if there is higher demand for energy at that specific moment than the supply, the price of that energy will go up. And when you look at how energy is consumed across 24-hour period, more or less all over Australia, you will see that there is a very interesting thing happening, which is energy is mostly consumed during peak hours, so between 4 to 8 p.m. is when people get home. You know, they turn on their air conditioning, they do laundry, they cook dinner. And energy is mostly produced, especially in the last few days, thanks to the advent of solar, residential solar, and the incredible scale it has reached. This energy is mostly produced during the middle of the day. So what happens on the energy market is that as the price fluctuates across the day based on supply and demand, the price also changes. The price is bid every 5 minutes, which virtually means that the price of power is different every 5 minutes. And if you are able to get connected to the wholesale market, you can buy power at that price, whatever the live price is. So if now energy is 10 cents, you pay those 10 cents. If it's 30, you pay those 30 cents.
See, that's interesting. I've just pulled up Amber's website now, and it's a really good looking website. You've got the amount of renewables on the grid. So you've got a live tracker here. So we can see it's 10:23 a.m. here in Victoria. There's 62% of the grid is renewables, and the live energy price is 8 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how everyone knows their energy prices off the top of their heads, but, I mean, an average energy price might be 30 cents, 28 to 35 cents per kilowatt hour is probably what you would see. And here we've got 8 cents currently. So that is really cheap, and there's a lot of renewables to the grid.
It's so cheap. 8 cents. You can't. Okay, there are some retail offer that maybe will bring you closer to that, but
I've not seen it.
Yeah, look, there are always new offer popping out, especially with the pricing that you can get in the middle of the day when there is that surplus of renewable energy being produced, right? But 8 cents is, I think this can give you a taste of where pricing can get to on the wholesale market. Energy can be literally free during the middle of the day. Which does raise the question is like, if a retailer doesn't pay for the power you are consuming, why are you getting charged the flat 25, 30 cents a kilowatt, right?
It's crazy when you think about it. Yeah, they just thought, so the spot price of energy is changing every 5 minutes. It's going up and down. And the standard energy retailer just gives you a bang blanket, 30 cents a kilowatt, whatever. They don't care. So in the case when the energy prices drop, they're making like 100% profit sometimes on that energy at your expense. And most people don't even know.
Sometimes they're getting paid for you to use power.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at the wholesale market pricing in South Australia, South Australia has an incredible saturation of solar. You will see very often in the middle of the day the price plummeting to minus fields, like minus 10 cents, minus 15 cents. Sometimes it's minus 60 cents a kilowatt. It means that if you are with Amber and you're consuming power in that moment, we are paying you 60 cents a kilowatt. Now, there is another, it's a double-edged sword, because when the price is that low, also the value of your export is that low. So this is something that I'm sure we will be able to talk about.
So the reverse of that is true, where if you, at times, and this is where this comes with a disclaimer, is at times if you're feeding solar back to the grid, you might get charged for that.
Yeah.
And it could potentially be fairly high if it's a bad instance. Oh
yeah, for sure. I mean, look, if we want to do a step back and kind of like look at what the industry is, what is happening in the industry, and in general, what is happening in the renewable energy space worldwide, we are seeing an unprecedented rush towards solar installation. Solar has never been cheaper, has never been more productive, more efficient. And at the same time, we're seeing such a big growth in the number of batteries that people are installing in their homes. And this combination of, we have a lot of solar being produced during the middle of the day, and we have an increasing number of batteries, which are not yet at the point where we would need them to be in order to support the grid in the right way. But it is a market that is growing very quickly, as you probably have noticed. But what is happening is that with all of this solar that is being produced in the middle of the day, if the solar is not getting consumed, the network, so the distributor, the company that holds the right and maintenance and the maintenance of the power lines, the people that bring the power to your home, essentially, they have a problem. It's like, we have so much solar that we don't know what to do with it. So the price of that solar in the market just goes to nothing. And therefore, if you are exposed to a model like the Amber model, which works on wholesale live pricing, and you are exporting during the middle of the day, and we can't, and in the case we can't control it, well, yes, you probably are not having a great time.
I remember when I first started my electrical apprenticeship, my first TAFE lecturer, he sat us down and he said, basically, strip it right back to first principles. This is how electricity works. And he basically said it's like plumbing. So it's like plumbing, and then the water is going through the pipes. And it's like what you're saying was, the energy is coming from solar panels that's going into the grid. It's like water going into the pipes. It has to go somewhere. Like, it needs to be directed somewhere, or you've got to stop it. And I can see what you're saying. If there's this issue with, too much pressure, too much electricity going down these pipes, and the system just can't handle it. So they're desperate at times for someone to take it. And that's where someone who owns, say, an electric car has a significant advantage, because if their car battery is empty, they can plug their car in the middle of the day, and they can basically go, these people are desperate to get rid of energy, and I've got an 80 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah, give it to me.
Send it here. I'll take it, and I'll get paid to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities there. But before we go into too much detail on that, and we start to unpack that even more, do you want to give me just a bit of a rundown of what the customer experience is with Amber? So obviously they sign up to Amber, they have solar and batteries, and they get an app on their phone, and they monitor the live prices and spot prices on their phone. Is that how you would describe it? Yeah,
you're on point. Like, the Amber wants to become the one point for you to manage your energy experience at home. The way we do it is, we have an application which is, as you said, it's really straightforward. You can monitor the live prices on the wholesale market, so you always know what you're paying. You can monitor what your battery is doing if you have a battery connected to Amber. Now you can even monitor what your EV is, your electric vehicle is doing, because we do have that functionality now. We do have an electric vehicle product. The idea is, you just fire the app and you look at it, and you have a pretty good idea of what's happening. And you have also an idea of, okay, I am looking at the market pricing. How does that change the way I'm going to do things today? Am I going to take advantage of very, very cheap renewable energy in the middle of the day? I'm going to plug my car. I'm gonna run my washing right now. Or I can see the prices are pretty spicy in the evening. There is some volatility expected on the market. I'm not going to use my power tonight. I'm not going to drain my battery. Why? Because I want my battery to discharge that extra energy to the grid to make that extra money that will change. Over time, it will really stack up, right?
Last time we caught up, we talked about which customers or which homeowners Amber would be right for. Mm-hmm. And that there are some people that Amber won't be right for, depending on what setups they have, or whether they're just happy to go with the volatility of the market or things like that. So can you give me a quick rundown on who the ideal customer is for Amber, and maybe who the type of customers, not that you don't want, but you just don't think they're going to have a good time?
Yeah, Amber is designed to be a set and forget software. So we give you access to the wholesale market. And then we put on top of the wholesale market this software, which is designed to automate your battery and essentially make you money. It works really well the vast majority of the times. And there are a few key things that will make a customer having a better experience, will help a customer having a better experience than someone else. Some of these things are, for example, the gear, the system that this person has installed. If you want to think about what makes a good customer to Ember, you want to be looking at a few things. The first one is, are we able to control your gear? Is your solar system, your battery, compatible with the Ember product? Luckily, we are able to control the vast majority of the gear that is out there. We believe we have about 80% coverage of what it's installed in Australia. Are we able to control both the battery and the solar inverter? Which, in DC coupled system, like a Sangro system, you have one brain. You have the inverter, and then you have the storage, and the storage is sort of dumb, and the inverter does all the work, and we connect to the inverter. Therefore, we are controlling also the battery. But when you are talking about controlling a system that is AC coupled, and it's a retrofit system, so you just have a beautiful Power tool, and you have an old inverter which is, I don't know, 6 years old, and it does the work. It works really well, but we are not able to control it. Well, the situation changes. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, does Ember control my gear in total? Only the battery or also the inverter? Do I understand the way the market works? Do I want to spend those 10, 15 minutes maybe talking to an Ember person, maybe looking at a website, or talking to one of your guys as well, Luke, to understand how does the Ember model work? Because being exposed to the wholesale market doesn't need to be complicated. It just is a bit different. So you gotta understand a little bit how the model operates, right? How does Ember actually bill me? The third thing you want to be looking at is, does the wholesale market and the gear that I have help me have a great time on Ember based on the way I consume power? For example, let's make two examples, the same gear. We have two customers. They have a brand new Powerwall 3. It's DC coupled. Okay, so the inverter is inside the battery. But one customer has, and let's say both of them have 8 kilowatt solar system, about the average nowadays, right? One customer has the ability to use a lot of power during the middle of the day because they work from home. They have an electric vehicle. It's a fully electric home. And during the evening, they don't need to use a lot of power because they already did all of the laundry, their washing, dishwasher, EV charging. They did all of that stuff in the middle of the day. What happened for these customers is that on a sunny day, they're self-consuming their solar power. On a cloudy day or on a winter day, they're buying that power from the grid during the middle of the day, which is going to be cheaper with Ember, even in winter. During the evening, that customer has the ability to say, look, I have a battery that is 13.5 kilowatt. All right? I can self-consume it, or I can also let the software dispatch some of that power to the grid for me and make me some money. On another end, we have the neighbor of this customer, which has exactly the same system, but they are a family of 6. No one is at home during the middle of the day. They have 2 electric vehicles. They need to charge the car as soon as they get back home. They need to run everything, and they have just one battery.
So they're using a lot of power overnight.
Or
in peak.
In peak, yes. So ideally, what happens in Ember on the wholesale market is that peak power is quite expensive, right? You don't want to be buying energy during those hours. You want to be selling it. So
at least using energy that you've stored.
Yeah, exactly. But even then, you are using energy that you are storing, but you're not taking advantage of the wholesale market in its fullest. Why? Because let's say that you have a battery that just is enough to cover your consumption during the evening. Okay, it means that you don't have anything to sell to the grid during those hours. So the way I see it is, your battery can either save you money because you don't buy that energy from the grid, right? Or your battery can also make you money because you're not buying that energy from the grid, but you're also able to sell some of that to the grid when the grid pays a premium for it. So having the right gear, understanding the Amber model, and understanding whether your type of consumption can fit the system of Amber are three important things. Now, the beauty of a model like Amber is that even if you have a big consumption during the evening, you could be having an amazing time with Amber if you have enough storage capacity. The sweet spot and the point is you need to have a storage capacity that is higher than your consumption during the evening. That's why we always say the bigger the battery, the better.
We have a lot of people that buy multiple batteries just to go on Amber.
Yeah.
I looked into Amber and full disclosure, I didn't sign up to Amber. I managed to I haven't signed up to Amber yet because I managed to get a really good deal with OVO, which I think OVO are now gone into liquidation and got bought by AGL.
Yeah.
And AGL are our mortal enemies. So I might have to leave and swap over to Amber pretty soon.
Reconsider your position, yeah.
Yeah, but my setup was interesting because I installed at about 2021, I think 13 kilowatts of solar with a solar edge inverter and a Powerwall 2.
Okay.
And we didn't worry about putting in a smart meter for the solar edge inverter because I figured I could do the consumption monitoring from the Tesla app, which is it used to be a very common setup that we'd do a couple of years ago. Now we're slightly changing. But when we looked into Amber, they said, look, they said you can get on Amber and you'll have a good time, but you won't have a great time unless you install a smart meter to control the solar inverter, as well as having the Powerwall 2, which is what you were saying about the ability to control the solar as well as the battery. Because I think some people get confused around, look, smart meter is a confusing term at the best of times because the smart meter in their board that the energy retailer has is called a smart meter as well. Yeah. And the consumption meter for the solar is called a smart meter.
Yeah, we make things simple.
A lot of people get confused, but I think what you're trying to say is if you do have a retrofit battery like a Tesla Powerwall 2, and there are thousands of them around Australia, if they have a solar system as well, they want to make sure they have a smart meter on the solar system to control the solar to basically curtail the system from feeding back to the grid in instances where they might get charged for it.
Yeah, 100%. You if you can choose between having a solar system that is getting curtailed or not, I would 100% go for having a curtailed solar system. So it means having a smart meter connected to your inverter. Or having the right inverter. It depends on the brand. Not every brand requires that smart meter. But even if you don't, Amber could be an interesting choice. What's the alternative? The alternative is to get, at least in Victoria, as you know, the feed-in tariff is going to pretty much zero. The minimum feed-in tariff is going to something silly, something like 0.04 cents a kilowatt. It's gonna be soon. You can see how the retail offer for feed-in tariff for what you export from your solar system is plummeting because that energy in the middle of the day is just worthless on the market. So retailers are like, look, we don't want to be losing money on that stuff. We don't want to be losing money on that energy. Why do we need to bear that cost? So they are lowering the cost. And every time that you get a good feed-in tariff, it's very likely because you're getting charged extra for the power you buy, right? They need to make money somewhere. Now let's think about a scenario where you have an AC coupled retrofit Powerwall 2 and we can't control your solar inverter. Now, if you have 30 kilowatt of solar and you use zero power in the middle of the day and you live in a place like Victoria or South Australia where negative feed-in tariff is the thing most of the days in the middle of the day, you probably are not going to have a great time with Amber.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's interesting watching the spot prices throughout the day. I don't mind a little bit of investing on the side. And it's funny because you mentioned stock market before, and I think of another guy who works with me, he always asks me about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and stuff. He's like, oh, should I buy Bitcoin? And I'm like, yeah, you should. But you've just got to be careful. It's got to be volatile, right? And he would buy a bit of Bitcoin and it would drop 10%. And then the next day he'd freak out. He'd come in and be like, I need to sell it. And I'm like,
what did I do?
If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, because you need to zoom out and see the bigger picture and maybe look at this across the month, 3 months, 12 months, and then start to see, well, hey, like it is volatile. Yes, some days I do have some big wins. Some days I have some losses. But overall, I'm actually better off having a bit more independence and, getting the energy at a wholesale price.
Yeah, and look, I think we very much focus on the economic outcome, right? And that's a big part of how we consider our investment into solar and batteries. But there is a whole lot of other things which are brought to you by Ember and that you get only with Ember. The first being control. You can control your gear with Ember. Ember is the only company right now that allows you to take control over your gear and decide whether you want to dispatch your battery right now, you want to charge it from the grid. So if energy is free, you can charge it up, right? Maybe you don't even need a solar system. You can just have a battery-only system.
Well, that's one thing that a lot of people ask me around like Tesla Powerwall is, can you choose when, like in real time, when you want to charge and discharge the battery? Mm-hmm. And like I know with Tesla, you can set time of use and stuff, general kind of high-level programs, but you can't just go in and push a button and say dump it. Now, my understanding is that with Amber, you can.
100%. And with Ember, not only you can, but it's probably one of those very few instances where it makes sense to do that. Why should you dispatch your battery if you're getting 7 cents feed-in tariff from another retailer? Why do I need to sell my precious stored energy to just earn 7 cents? I want to do it when I can pay 50 cents, $1, $2 a kilowatt, right? And so Ember connects connects you with the ability of dispatching and have control over your power, as well as having control over how much are you getting paid for that power. You're free to consume it if you want. You're free to just use all of the power from your battery, right? It's your battery, it's your energy. You do whatever you want. But if you are interested in improving the return on investment, having a better bill, Ember is a tool that empowers you to do that. And the beauty of what we have achieved, and that's why we're also very likely the biggest residential battery automation software in Australia, and we are growing internationally with this software, is you don't need to look at it and stay and constantly monitor it, right? It's a set and forget software. 90% of our customers don't actively control their battery, if not for instances where they know that, for example, you may be throwing a party tonight and the battery, you can open the app and it's like, oh, look, wait a second. SmartShift is thinking it's planning to sell my energy tonight because price is 50 cents. It's a pretty good price, right? But tonight I'm having a party. I'm inviting all of my friends and family at home. I'm going to use a lot of power. I can go into the app and say to SmartShift, don't sell my power, preserve my power right now. Right?
So SmartShift, just to clarify, that is the AI automation that controls.
That's right.
I'll go back to the stocks analogy. So like in the stock market, because a lot of the people listening to this are more technical. Maybe they're a bit more older and matured. They've been, have investments and stuff. So they will hopefully understand those analogies. But like in the stock market, you can get bots, like trading bots that they just buy, sell. And you just you put your money in and you let it go. And they probably get it right most of the time. Sometimes they get it wrong. But so you have the option of basically setting up SmartShift and just saying, look, you just do what you think based on historical data and forecasts and what you think is happening in the network. Or you can take that power yourself and manually do it yourself, which some people would like to do, but realistically, you'd probably be better just leave it to SmartShift. I'm guessing.
It's like, do you really want to spend that time making $3 there? It makes sense sometimes. Look,
some people, this is their interest. Like some people love this stuff.
We love it.
I meet them. I love those people too. But yeah, some people would just sit there manually doing it.
Yeah, I think once I was on the phone with a lovely lady. She was telling me about how her husband has become very much addicted to the Ember app. And she's like, oh, what did you do to my husband? He's spending so much time on the app. And yes, okay, we made $50 last month, but he loves it, but he spends so much time. And I just explained, not much I can do about it. If he likes to play with it, go ahead. But I explained to the husband that you probably will get a better result most of the time if you let the software do its thing. So the way the software operates is very interesting because it's a highly customized experience. Now, if you think about the experience you have with another VPP, with these virtual power plants, what happens is that they control batteries in fleet. They send fleet commands. They have 1,000 batteries connected there. That like they see a price spike happening in Queensland, and they're like, okay, let's dispatch all of our batteries right now because we can make very good money from it. They do that. They make 10. They send to the customer and to the homeowner maybe 1. They pocket the difference, right? But the way they control the battery is as a fleet. So it's one command, a lot of batteries. With Ember is very different. With Ember is many commands, one battery. So you have a software that takes into account the way the market is working, your solar generation, the size of your battery, your location, the weather, your consumption pattern. It learns the way, it's a machine learning algorithm, so it will learn the way you consume power. And then considering all of these things, it will create a plan so that this plan and the software can better support you by saying, wait a second. I know that Luke, every morning, he's a morning guy. At 6 a.m., he uses a lot the air conditioner because it's cold, right? And so if the software foresee that at 6 a.m. in the morning, the price on the market is going to be high, it's going to top up the battery a little bit during the night because energy is a lot cheaper so that it can cover your consumption in the morning. So you have an intelligent assistant that works inside your battery that makes your battery really, really smart to be able to lower that consumption. And that level of customization and that level of control, you can't possibly get it anywhere else.
Well, yeah, that's what I really didn't like about a lot of VPPs. We get people come in and they've been pitching me VPPs for years.
Yeah, I'm sure you get a few of those.
Yeah, they come in and they always pitch it to me, and I usually knock them back because generally these energy retailers, the majority of them, they just act in their interest. Like you said, they might have 1,000, 10,000 batteries or whatever, and then they'll just discharge them all at a time that works for them, and they profit. And then at the end of the month, maybe they give like $10 back or something. But they rake it in so much, like you said, that sometimes they're getting 100% profit on this stuff or more. And yeah, it's really just, it's in the interest of the energy retailer, not the individual or the homeowner. Correct. I think that's the difference for you guys, is you're acting in the interest of the homeowner.
We need to. We need to because, to go back to what you asked me before, it's like, what's the difference between a traditional energy retailer and Ember? It's like, as you said, it's the interest. Where is the interest lying? A normal energy retailer needs to squeeze their customers as much as possible so they can make as much profit as possible because they know that customer is there just because of the rates that they offer. And as soon as the customer finds a better rate, snap of fingers, they're just somewhere else. So they need to really make as much money as possible, right? With Ember, the value proposition is completely reversed. We need the customer to have an amazing time. We need the customer to come back every month and look at their bills and they're like, oh, wow, I just make $100 this month. This whole system is working for me. And by doing that, we are helping you and the grid by, connecting your battery to the grid and helping the grid when the grid needs it. A price spike essentially means that there is an urgent need for power, for energy. You need to be able to dispatch more to the grid, and you are helping the grid and you're making money from it. And we always make the same amount of money from everyone. We charge every customer $22. So whether you have a massive bill or a very, very small one, or you're making $500 per month, which does happen, I believe we're the energy retailer in Australia that pays the most our customers. We pay our customers the most.
So I was about to ask you that question. So then, obviously Ember is a business. Obviously you make money. So how do you make money? You just have a flat subscription fee of $22 a month.
That's right. Yeah. And the subscription fee model is designed to bring the value back to the consumer. If you are in a subscription-based model, you know what we earn, you know what you get, and whether you're having an amazing time or a so-so time, it does depend on you, the gear you have, and your choices, right?
Okay.
And so what happens is that we are seeing that right now we have more than 9,000 batteries connected to the Ember model. And when I joined the Ember a couple of years ago, it was about 1,000. So we've been growing very quickly. And we have been growing because the numbers are there to back the experience. You know, Luke, I was talking to you the other day and we were like, I'm wondering what's the average feed-in tariff of a customer in Victoria. And Victoria has historically some of the lowest feed-in tariff in the NEM. I believe the lowest when it comes to retail offer. Now, if you look at a customer, the average feed-in tariff of battery customers, of which we also control the inverter, so we can curtail when negative pricing is happening, the average feed-in tariff is about 20 cents in Victoria. 20 cents, which is significantly higher than what you can get somewhere else. If you bring that into another state, we have 25 in South Australia, more than 30 or even 35 in New South Wales. Why? Because there is more instability in the New South Wales market, right? And more instability essentially means better opportunities for earning.
Okay. So just to clarify as well, when you say solar curtailment, that means basically shutting down the solar production to limit it from feeding to the grid when there's too much power on the grid and you're going to get charged.
Yeah. Essentially is that we have two types of solar curtailment. One is load following, which is the one that we prefer. Load following, what it does is essentially tries to match the live load consumption from your home. So if you have appliances that are running and are consuming 2 kilowatt, the inverter will just let through that enough to cover your consumption, and it will follow your load. And then you have on-off curtailment, which is a less refined version of curtailment, which essentially will turn on and off your solar inverter ability to export and produce based on the pricing.
So that would be when you can buy power cheaper than you can generate it for free.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, definitely.
You're getting paid to take. Yeah, if you were getting paid to take power from the grid, you would be like, I don't even need the solar.
Yeah, and that's why we're seeing that what's happening in Australia right now is that we have a lot of solars on people's roof and not enough storage capacity. And batteries are becoming this incredible tool to change the game, because in a place like South Australia, almost every day you can buy energy on the wholesale market for just a few cents. You know, you saw it yourself, 8 cents in Vic, and today it's not exactly a sunny day.
No.
Right? Today it's overcast in Vic. And in South Australia, you can get prices that are constantly in the minus 5 cents to the 2 cents in the middle of the day, and then very high prices in the evening. And why is that happening? Because as we said, the wholesale market is it's a bid market, right? And generators, they need to make money. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with how a big coal station works, but it's not like you can turn it on and off like that, right? You need time to ramp it up and you need time to ramp it down. So what happens is that even if the price is negative or very, very low in the middle of the day, they need to keep on going on producing. They're still producing. They are losing money during the day. Then they need to recoup those losses in the evening. That's why you see such a big difference, and that's why we're seeing these happening more and more. Prices during the day will get cheaper and cheaper as people install more solar, and as solar becomes an even bigger source of production for the Australian market. Prices during the day will plummet even further. Prices during the evening will keep on going up. Why? Because those generators need to bid for a much higher price during the evening to recoup of the losses that they made during the day. And that creates an amazing opportunity where you can top up your battery for nothing and then sell that extra energy for the same prices those big coal generators are making.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of load shifting involved there. I wanted to ask you about electric cars. So one thing I just noticed last night, it just came up on Facebook. So a really popular bit of software amongst electric car owners is Charge HQ.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah. Now, which is we just seen that they were free for a while. Then they had like a $5 subscription, I think. And then I just saw last night that Amber Electric has acquired Charge HQ.
Yeah,
Now,
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, can you tell me anything about that? Have you had much to do with that?
Yeah, I personally haven't. I think it has been a project happening a bit in the behind the scene at Amber, especially to keep things private. But what I can tell you is that is very much in line with where Amber is aiming to go. We have our own, we launched a few months ago our electric vehicle charging product, which is working really well. And Charge HQ has developed an incredible customer base and a very good product. Now, bringing them inside Amber and being able to develop upon that is going to be transformative for the electric vehicle charging market in Australia. We believe that customer will continue to have access to Charge HQ as it is today, but we also believe that those customers will be able to have a much better time if they are exposed and connected to the Amber system and to the wholesale market because of the way the wholesale market is working, and because of the fact that very often you do have instances and occasions where you can charge your car for free. And I think all of this is bringing us towards what is going to be the next big change happening, which is going to be vehicle to grid. And we're testing it. We have a few customers already doing it, a few customers making hundreds of dollars when price spike events happen. That I see how the acquisition of Charge HQ is something that will bring a lot of solidity to our ability to create an even better product for our EV customer.
So Charge HQ, I'm trying to think how to describe it. If anyone doesn't know, a lot of like Tesla EV owners and general EV owners were using it to control their solar generation into their car. So they basically charge on solar because some cars or some systems didn't necessarily have that integrated into their software where they could have a charge on solar feature. So they're just trying to maximize solar energy that's going into the car during the day, which is, like you said, in the middle of the day when there's a high amount of energy at the grid, that's probably the best time to charge the car from renewable energy. Yeah,
exactly. You don't want to be selling your energy from your solar system to the grid. You want to be putting all of it into your car. So charging from solar access is a wonderful thing. You're pretty much charging your car for free, right? Now, the Amber product does that in a very similar way. We have two ways of doing that. We are able to control your solar inverter. So we simply let your car become a load in case there is a negative pricing. We're just charging your car and limiting the export to that point. Or if we can't control the inverter, we have a software that is able to analyze and kind of predict the way your system is producing power at that time, and make sure that we are just letting enough. We are requesting enough power from the system. So we what we do essentially is we assume how much power you are producing, okay, and we are going to draw that much from the solar, and it's kind of like a juggling to make sure that we are not drawing too much, so you're drawing from the grid. But the ideal scenario is we control the inverter, which we're seeing more and more often, right? So it's like going in the future. If you project what Amber is going to do in 5 years, the situation with the compatibility of inverters, I see us being able to control pretty much and curtail pretty much every system. That's just what you need right now.
So with the Charge HQ integration then, so a customer would basically use their Amber app. Would that become their single source of truth for their home? Like, are they just going to be pretty much using the Amber app to juggle their car charging and their home, and working out if they need to load shift, move power around from day to night? Or
that is a great question. Right now, I believe that things are not going to change that much for the customers of Charge HQ at the moment. Things are going to stay.
Do they have two apps?
They will. If they wish to become Amber customers, they will have two apps. But very likely, if they wish to become Amber customers, they will be moved on Amber for EV, which is essentially the Amber version of Charge HQ. And if Though if they decide to stay on the Charge HQ platform, they can simply do that. And if they wish, that I can foresee how there are going to be integrations on the Charge HQ app where you will be able to see, for example, I'm just assuming, but the live pricing, right? You are going to see some sort of integrations between the two companies for sure. But it's very early days. It has just happened. I'm sure. As soon as we have some more updates, we'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. I wanted to ask some questions as well. So I've had some people approach me about commercial battery installations that they wanted to put on Amber. So particularly one guy, he wanted to put about 50 kilowatt hours of batteries. I think we were looking at Tesla and Sungrow, and it was in a warehouse where he had a business, but they didn't use that much power. And he was interested in getting 50 kilowatt hours of storage hooked up to Amber and making, a bit of money through arbitrage.
Yeah.
Now, is that a good idea? What are the limitations, or what do you recommend around commercial installations?
Look, when it comes to commercial, we sort of are still in a gray area because we essentially have an insurance position. We hedge our position on the market. Every time a customer buys energy through Amber, they are paying a few cents every kilowatt hour that they consume for our hedging, which is what we use in order to offer a price guarantee, which essentially means if the market becomes incredibly unstable and energy is very expensive, you're never going to buy and you're never going to pay more than the price guarantee. And in order for us to offer that price guarantee, we need to have an insurance position, right? When it comes to commercial, our insurance position and our hedging position doesn't currently allow us to offer connection and to offer our billing proposition to commercial customers. Why is that? Because think about a commercial customer that maybe has 150 kilowatt of consumption per day. Not a lot, right? But still, it's 150 kilowatt. What happens if that day there is a massive price spike and energy is $19 a kilowatt and this person doesn't have something, it cannot just stop the fridge from running, right? They need to consume that power, right? What will happen is that customer will be charged a lot of money, and that customer will be like, well, I'm not going to pay that much money for a day of consumption, right? And that puts us in a position where if we're still a small company, Amber is a little shy of 150 people. We're not yet massive. That puts us in a situation where we simply cannot yet onboard big commercial customers. Now, if you are a small shop, if you consume 50, 60 kilowatt per day before you go and install the solar and the battery system, and you want to take advantage of the Amber model because, for example, you consume a lot of power in the middle of the day and you don't really consume much in the evening, so it's perfect fit, right? You can go ahead. We can onboard you. We do have commercial customers, right, that are small-sized commercial meters. What happens is that then you would be very likely installing a solar system to cover your consumption. In winter, you're buying energy when the solar system is not producing as much, or the weather is not there to support you. You're buying energy at a cheaper rate during the middle of the day, topping up the battery still every day because the battery will charge from the grid, even if the solar is not producing. That's an amazing perk. Even in winter, your battery is always full at night, right? And then you will be discharging that power to the grid. So when you're talking to a commercial customer, it's sort of like, is their consumption lower than about 50, 60 kilowatt per day? And are they interested in installing a fairly big battery? And if the answer is yes, I think Amber could be a great option for them. But unfortunately, we're not there yet to help those big energy consuming businesses.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying is there's a bit of a liability there. If someone is a very high energy user and they don't have the flexibility, say you run a factory, you've got production happening or something, and you have to use that energy no matter what. And if you see the energy prices go up to $19 a kilowatt hour, then you don't have the option to turn everything off. You just have to cop it.
Yeah.
And, you could get $1,000, $2,000 bill for the day.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to be a good time for anyone.
No, not a great time.
Yeah, no, not a great time. And yeah, people are not ready for that shock. Do you think they'd be able to make it back? Or you just think it's better if they've got a high energy usage to just...
Look, I think it does depend. Make it back. So you're talking about a case where this
I guess
customer...
is that high risk, high reward? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, for those big commercial customers, yes. But if I was running a factory and I wanted to be exposed to the wholesale market, I would personally make sure that I have backup in place, like a big battery. So in case the price is that high, I have a backup source for power, right?
Okay.
And I can take advantage of the very, very, very cheap prices that are in the middle of the day. You have no idea how many times I've got asked about Bitcoin farming in South Australia.
Yeah.
So many times, because they're like, oh yeah, energy is free. I can run a massive Bitcoin farm there, consume a lot of power and pay nothing for it. The problem is that what happens if the price spikes in the middle of the day, which can happen, right?
So I'll give you another hypothetical. Well, no, actually, no, sorry. I'll give you a real world situation. So we've got 2 warehouses where we keep our stock. And one of them, we have the office in there where we use a lot of power. But our second warehouse where our aircon stuff is, we don't really use much power there at all. We've got actually like a 30 kilowatt system on the roof just because we had panels left over. So if I had a warehouse with a big solar system and I didn't use much power there, would it be beneficial for me to chuck in like 20 or 30 kilowatt hours of batteries and sign that warehouse up to amber, knowing we don't really use the power?
Well, I guess define beneficial, right? What's the goal here? Is do you wanna like repay the batteries in 5 years? It does depend on where you live a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So this would be in Clayton, Victoria.
I'd say if you are, and in a way, fortunately and unfortunately, Victoria is a very stable energy market.
Yeah.
We don't have as much volatility. To give you an idea, if you look at the amount of hours, events, and complexive hours and length of events happening in Victoria in the different states. Last year in Victoria, we had 3 price spikes, when in New South Wales and in Queensland, we had more than 17. That makes a big difference, because those batteries will earn you a few dollars here and there most of the days, and then for those 10, 15 times a year, they'll make you $100, $200, $300, $500. Now, if that volatility doesn't happen, you don't get to have so much return from that, right? So the way I see it and the way I would suggest it is, look, if you have a big solar system and you're getting nothing from that power, I guess installing a battery will be a good way to increase your return on that energy, because you can essentially don't sell it at 5 cents a kilowatt and sell it at an average rate of, as we said, probably around the 15, 20 cents a kilowatt across the year, which is pretty good. But if you have, the interesting part of Amber is really for domestic and residential use, because that's where you are going to see the best benefits, because people are using power in the middle of the night and bills are expensive. They're getting more and more expensive every year. So with a big battery, you're going to see a lot of savings, and you are going to see in those occasions very good earnings. So I guess to answer your question, it depends. It's not as easy as, you just chuck a very big battery in Vic and you're going to have a great time.
So you kind of saying, I always say in chaos there is opportunity.
Yeah,
feels
for
like,
sure.
I'm told, I want to Google it to check, but I'm told chaos and opportunity are the same word in Japanese.
All right, yeah, okay.
I'll have to Google that to check, but it's true though.
I'm sure someone has made a tattoo out of that.
Yeah. So I don't mind a bit of chaos in my life, and whenever there is chaos, I look for the opportunity. And I think that's kind of what you're saying with the price spikes is like it's a terrible thing for some people, but if you're prepared and you're signed up for Amber, if you're prepared, you can make a bit of money.
100%. Look, we have customers that don't have a battery, and we have a lot of customers with a battery. The customer that don't have a battery, they need to be aware of how a price spike works, and the vast majority of them, they get used to it. They're just not using that much power during those days, and they take advantage of the very cheap, affordable prices the other times. But yeah, as you said, it's it's two faces of the same coin. On one side, you have the chaos, which is, hey, there is so much instability in the market, I can make so much money. On the other side, you need to be aware of it, and you want to make sure that you have the right gear. And to be fair, we are seeing batteries becoming so popular that I am very confident that if we were to have this conversation in 2 years, the average household that has a solar system would also have a battery, or is really considering about buying one, because they are becoming a lot more viable. I'm just amazed when I see customers that have maybe 2 Powerwalls in Sydney, for example, or in Adelaide, and their bills are constantly, every month they get paid $200, $300, $500, $150 every month. We constantly pay those customers, and so that chaos and opportunity is becoming bigger and bigger because the instability in the market, it's increasing. If you look at the amount of events that have been happening in the last 10 years, it's really increasing. Why? Because so much solar is being produced, and you need to recoup that losses in the middle of the night. So the price bid for that power increases, goes up and up and up. And as we are as we are shutting down, all the stations, that instability will increase until we reach that moment, that sweet spot where we have enough battery capacity to cover the consumption and to supply to the grid so we can bring back the equilibrium.
That's true. And it's very interesting looking at the energy transition now. And I think we've reached a weird position in the energy transition where you can look at what's happening in America, say with Trump. And I mean, their argument over there was like, they've got Elon and, he's pro renewable energy, but they're kind of saying, well, maybe we're going a little bit fast with this, and it's good, but it's a little bit unreliable. Our coal-fired power stations were more reliable and consistent. Maybe we should taper off the renewable energy and get the coal-fired stations going for that reliability, because I think there is definitely going to be a changeover period of swapping from coal to renewable energy. We will get there one day, but there's going to be a section in the middle where there is going to be the grid is going to be unreliable until we reach a certain level of battery storage in the network. So there is, the next couple of years, I think, is going to be a pivotal point in the transition where the grid is going to be unstable, and you need to be ready for that.
That's right.
One thing I wanted to check with you is a lot of our customers, initially, one of the first reasons they get batteries is because they do want that security, that independence and the stability in the case of an extreme event where the grid does go down. So obviously the Amber is doing its thing, churning power, making money, but what kind of safety nets does it have in place if there is a grid outage? Does it keep minimum reserves in the battery?
Yeah, 100%. So the way the Amber software works, it will inherit whatever settings you put into the OEM, into your battery app. So if you have a Tesla app, you go into the Tesla app and you simply say, I want the minimum reserve level to never go below 30%. That's what I want to keep no matter what, right? Amber will not be able to override that. You can also set into the battery reserve level that simply says Smart Shift cannot sell if the battery goes below 50%, for example. So Smart Shift has to play with that top 50% of capacity. But in the instance the grid goes down, Amber is disconnected. Right? The standard system takes over, your emergency system takes over. We are completely disconnected.
So you'd just be reliant on whatever charge you had in the battery at that point in time.
Yeah.
Which, if you had a Tesla with Stormwatch, then the likelihood that battery actually charged up to 100% before the storm is pretty high. Yeah, because they're pretty smart.
Yeah, wow. That's exactly what I was about to say as well. It's like it's incredible how smart these technologies are becoming. Like the Stormwatch for Tesla, Smart Shift does that in a very similar fashion, because we sort of know most of the times, right? As long as there is not something very sudden like a tree falls on a power line and a whole area is without power, and no one can predict a tree falling, right? But you can predict when there is a massive storm coming. It's very hot, and you know that there will be a big demand for power. And what we do is we look at all of these things and we're like, okay, there is a higher risk for that event to turn into a blackout? Are we charging the battery? Are we making sure that the person and the family has enough power? And so the software is really there to support. And it's beautiful that these technologies are becoming intelligent enough to do all of these things, to make our experience safer and better. And yes, it's another side of this instability in the market, on the energy market. It is becoming more profitable because it's more unstable, but as it becomes more unstable, it is becoming a little bit more dangerous. So having a backup for your power, energy security, at least for our customers, and we appeal to a large number of Australians. For all of these people, it's really important. It's like they really care about knowing that no matter what, they will be safe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So what do you think, Amber? What are the plans for the future with Amber? Where do you see Amber or the energy market in Australia in general in the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, look, if you, I think it's far. I'd say it's hard to look at so far, like 5 to 10 years. I love to do that. I often stop and try to think, okay, where are we going? What is going to happen? What is clear today is that batteries in homes are becoming the best way to manage capacity and to support the grid in the renewable transition. As a world, we have a mission to move to 100% renewable energy for obvious reasons. Batteries and solar systems at a residential scale will become and are already will become a massive part of this transition. Okay. Amber is moving from being an energy retailer that offers to its customers an amazing experience through their software and technology, which, by the way, is really the best technology you can find in the battery space in terms of control and results and upside from the automation. It's moving from just being an energy retailer to being a supplier of this technology to empower other energy retailers to do the same. We do have contracts in UK where we are empowering some of the biggest UK energy companies to offer this technology to their customers. So we are seeing Amber as becoming a product company that will empower millions and millions of homeowners to take control of their batteries, of their electric vehicles, hopefully soon also doing vehicle to grid. And all of this is because if we're able to control enough devices, if we are able to give control to enough people, when the grid needs it, when the grid is highly unstable, if there is enough volume, we are able to compensate that. We're able to bring back the grid to a safe spot by supplying all of that energy to the grid at the right time.
Okay. So did you say Amber is operating internationally at the moment as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and
yeah.
You're an Australian company?
We are a 100% Australian company. Yeah.
Okay. What other countries are you guys operating in or looking at?
Currently, the UK is our first country outside of Australia. I believe there are conversations for other places. It's hard to say. It's nothing that has been disclosed, at least to me yet. Still above my pay grade, but I can tell you that there is a very big appetite internationally for the kind of product that Amber is creating, and we need other companies to do the same. And Amber is not the only company that plays in this space, and I encourage everyone else that is building tech and software and products that are helping with this transition to, I wish them luck, and I really hope to see new players coming. But what is happening with Amber is really that we are getting a bit of traction into this international market because the software works. It's a beautiful experience. And if we can empower all of these other people without having to do all of the retail aspect of thing, of the billing aspect of thing, that's very simple, because the value to the chain, the value to the grid and to the consumer lies into the ability of selling that energy from the battery and from the electric vehicle to the grid and be paid better money for it. That's where the value of Amber really lies, right? More control, more money, to sell and help to the grid. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Well, yeah, so just for everyone listening, we're going to throw a referral code to Amber in the chat. So if you check it on YouTube, you'll be able to see a referral code there, which you can sign up. I think you get a kickback as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's everything, I think we'll wrap up on that. Thank you for coming in. Is there anything you wanted to mention while you're here?
For whoever is interested in learning about Amber, I can understand that it can be a bit confusing because it's a new way of doing things. But my suggestion is, if you are interested in taking control over your battery, or you're interested in buying a battery, or you already have a battery, Amber is a great place to make the best out of it, really. And hopefully this was useful. So thank you so much, Luke. Great conversation.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm sure Amber has partners right around Australia, and we are working on organising a workshop with Amber as well, I think in March. So stay tuned, lock into our social media channels, and you'll see that coming up.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
Yeah, all right. Imanuel, well, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. See you soon.
No worries. All right, good podcast. All right.